navigating email best practices for podcast growth. How do you navigate the best email best practices as a podcaster? And this is one topic that I'm going to discuss at least for the next couple of minutes till the top of the hour to make it sweet, short, succinct, but also very applicable and action friendly and definitely keyword search friendly. So we're going to talk about this today. And if you have any questions, please raise your hand, put it in the chat. I'd love to connect with you and also hear your feedback. If you have a podcast, please put it in the chat so we can all shout you out. And you can also, you never know, someone might just hear your podcast today. So thank you for being here. I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you, Mary Angela, for being here. Rosemary, Monica, Ramsey, Brian, thank you for being here too. I appreciate you guys. And why I do this consistently for those who are hearing me for the first time, because I know every episode, every topic is different. My name is Favour Obasi-ike, and I am a creative entrepreneur and business owner who has been doing this for a quarter of a century. And I've specifically focused into SEO, Pinterest, and podcast with a focus on helping businesses grow and scale their business from ground up, whether it is helping you build your website or maintaining it or auditing it or putting SEO in it or making sure it's showing up on the right search engines like Instagram, ChatGPT, Alexa. The list is endless. I'll be able to help you with that. And if you need more exclusive information like this is why I'm doing this room. Click the link in the description or just click the link above if you see it and put in your first name and your best email. Your first name and your best email. This is one of the best practices I'm showing you in real life that you could do as well. When you put your first name and your best email, you'll get an email, and the first email that you're going to get will be something that will allow you to learn more about what you're about to get involved in and involved with when it comes to content, and also access to my links as well, because email is one of the best ways of building your podcast. If it wasn't for today, or even if it wasn't for you listening to this podcast or episode today, I wouldn't be where I am. You wouldn't be where you are. We wouldn't be where we are, because we can't do this world alone. We have to do it together, and that's why we exist. So podcasting is one great platform, or one great, I could call it a podium, to really create quality control and create quality content that allows more people to find you consistently. And I've also been building this We Don't Play podcast show on wedon'tplaypodcast.com. I've had the We Don't Play podcast show for the last 6 years plus. It was 6 years in August, and August 12th to be precise, we turned 6. And we're closing into 600 episodes, and we're about 20 to 30 episodes away published, but we've recorded over 200 episodes that have not been published. So you tell me, when it comes to 2026, right, we're in 2025, when it comes to content, there are 365 days in a year. And if we have over half of the amount of days in the year in terms of content, then you're able to really still become a thought leader and a present leader, because there's also being, there's always something that you can put up and then eventually you're not seeing anymore. Someone wants to reach you, you're not reachable. It's weird. Somebody wants to work with someone they know, like, and trust, but at the same time, that's not going to be the only determining factor. Majorly is going to be based on your credibility and your accessibility, whether it's accessible by far or accessible by close distance or accessible by phone or by email. It's going to be something that will be very important and also very vital for you as a business. So if you're navigating email best practices for podcast growth, this is the episode for you, because I'm telling you my story on how I started, so you can learn from my story and then use your story and tell your story to other people. So when you think about email best practices, one of the best things you can do as a podcaster, as a business owner, if you're building your podcast for growth, is to mention your website, to mention your podcast vocally, verbally, like speak out and say it, because when you say these words, they're being transcribed into text. So for example, listen to the We Don't Play podcast show on wedon'tplaypodcast.com. If you were to transcribe that audio for the last 5 seconds or less, it would have that context and the link will be clickable, because that link will take you to a top level domain, a TLD, which is a .com or a dot, whatever your domain is. So when you have a podcast, the best email practice, the best way to do it as a business, best practice for email, even this is not even just for podcasts, just a 101, is let people have a chance to connect with you the first time they see you. Just like opening a door. When you open a door at a store or in a mall or in a room, the first thing you open is the door. Yes, you want to go to this door or you want to go through that door. Welcome, Dr. Shari and Sana. You want to go through which door, this door, that door, any door. It's all yours, right? But here's the thing, here's a catch. Before you open that door, you know what door you're opening. Welcome, Pierre. So you know what door you're opening before you open the door. If you want to open the kitchen door, if you want to open the front door, if you want to open the back door, if you want to open the bathroom door, if you want to open the closet, that's going to be a door that you're going to open. Now, why am I giving you this basic example? If you respond back and think back to what I just said a few seconds ago by opening doors, and now somebody is opening your website, meaning that they are opening a new tab. When somebody opens a new tab, they're opening a new door, a new window, right? So it's the same difference. So if you open a new tab, that is going to be a new door. And when someone types in that URL, that door will open, and that open door will show you what website you're looking for. That's why it's called a homepage. And then from the homepage, you can go to other pages. So if somebody is listening to your podcast and you have a freebie somewhere on your website, you can, or if you have a, newsfeed, like for this website or for this blog or for this podcast, I can say, for example, go to playinc.online/newsfeed. That's PLAYINC.online ONLINE/newsfeed, NEWSFEED. Why am I saying these words like this? Why am I phonetically pronouncing these words like this per letter? It's because, yes, there are 26 letters in the alphabet, and these words that we're creating are always going to be stringed to different key terms, different semantics, right? So if we're creating different semantics for different things, then the more people will find our content is based on different words that they search with. So if you keep saying email best practices, email best practices, email best practices, if you highlight email best practices or type in email best practices on Google or ChatGPT, the podcast, the episode, the show, the blog, the text, the video, the image, the caption, the alt text, the link, the alternative text, which is also going to be in form of context, and also the uniform resource locator, which is your URL. All of those things I just mentioned, if they had the words email best practices, they will be highlighted, they will be spotlighted, and you'll be featured. That's organic growth. That's podcast growth. Because if I send you an email and that email says episode 1 introduction, how many people do you think is going to open that email? Compared to if I said, want to know the best way to make a sandwich? Now, whoever opens that is interested in sandwiches. And if you have an episode about sandwiches, people that love that is going to listen to that. People who are curious are going to listen to that. Now, what you've just done is that you've put your podcast episode about sandwiches into a search box. Now, that could be your episode 1. Or you could be using a sandwich example. And in this sandwich example, you could be using it as an analogy or as a case study or as an illustration to mean something completely different from a sandwich. But now you're explaining the whole point of a sandwich and why you need the layers and, content marketing and anatomies and all these stuff. Like, yeah, you can go crazy, you can go creative. There are no rules. Now you've opened this email because of a sandwich, but now you're getting a whole podcast episode. That's my first episode about this. Or if you want to put it in your own terms, if you have a business, your first episode could be frequently asked questions about how we work or our business service. Now that's a whole episode for someone to binge on for 5 minutes just to learn about you, learn about your business, and then all of a sudden want to decide to subscribe or not. Now, if you're creating this and you're building this for podcast growth, now you're thinking about the cycle. Now, let me give you this illustration. Imagine you have an email list, right? And the continuous cycle is that you send an email on a Monday, but let's say you have 100 subscribers. You've sent 100 emails. I can say you've sent 100 email recipients, right? Or to 100 email recipients. You've sent one email to 100 recipients. Now, these 100 different recipients, right, have different ESPs, email service providers. They're either operating on Google Mail or operating on Yahoo Mail or probably Outlook Mail, Apple Mail, AOL, however you want to go with it. You're going to see an email that's going to go out there. And then on top of that, where it even gets even trickier is when you start getting email signups from communities, from people who sign up with their business email. So if it's your business at yourbusinesswebsite.com, now I can't even tell if you're a Google Mail, an Outlook Mail, or an Apple Mail. There are ways to find out. There's a way you can do it. But from just what meets the eye, you can't really decipher that. You can't decode that because it's been encrypted by a business that has bought a domain with a supported mailbox. So when you start sending out emails and you're thinking about your podcast, you're thinking about the people who are listening to your podcast, and how you're going to grow from there is you have these 100 email recipients that have all different types of ESPs, and you send one email to everyone. Okay, everyone got the email. Now, when people receive that email, the chances of them opening that email are either low, mid, or high. They could be low because you've probably never sent them an email in a long time. They could be also low because these are emails you've just uploaded to your email directory or email list. They could also be low because technically you may not have completed your domain name server authentication setup, right? Your DNS records, you have to put in different codes for different things. Welcome, Dr. Tavis. Different codes for different things. So imagine you are building consistency in relationship management. That's why it's called a CRM, customer relationship management. You're building a relationship with a person, but behind that person is an operating system. So if you're navigating the best email practices or navigating the best email best practices for podcast growth, then one of the best practices you can first of all consider before even thinking about any platform is, if I have 100 contacts I want to send this email to, and I want my email deliverability to be at least 99.9% and not 89.9% or 79.9%, then my objective is to be on a platform that has a great server, that has a great, I'll call it a great system in total. There are different platforms you can use, right? There are so many platforms that you can use. I'm a Flowdesk partner. Welcome, Juliana. I'm a Flowdesk partner, so I use Flowdesk consistently, and A lot of our clients have signed up and I've never heard somebody saying, "Oh, I'm moving to a different platform" after they move to Flowdesk, because one, the simplicity, the authenticity, the credibility, the speed, because they also partner with Amazon SES, which is simple email service. It's great. And with my code, with my affiliate link, you get 50% off and you can start right away, because very soon after November 28th, the unlimited pricing is going to be going away forever. So if you need that link, just let me know in the chat and I'll put the link for you. But technically, if you want to hear it, it's partners.flowdesk.com/we-don't-play, all one word. And what you're looking at now is different platforms doing different things. And when you start setting up these different systems, before you send an email, you have to put in a system that is actually connecting back to you, right? So as a business, welcome to Mommy Austin. I see you as well. Singer Praveen, thank you for being here too. One of the major things that I look at and I really pay attention to, right, is the deliverability and the responsibility of someone in receiving that email and how they're going to receive it, how they're going to feel when they receive it. So looking at your email and your platform, it's very important to consider your email service provider and then also your CRM, your customer relationship management tool. Why I've been using Flowdesk for a long time. I was actually looking at my analytics not too long ago, and I was like, wow, I need to do something on LinkedIn and talk about this, which I will, because I've just crossed over 16,000 followers on LinkedIn, and there are a lot of things that I talk about that are very contextual, which create more of a deeper layer of understanding when it comes to business matters, because I can talk SEO all day, but if you don't understand what I'm saying, then there's no communication at all. It's a soundboard at that point. And that's not something that I would want. So I break it down, I give analogies, and I also help you consider different options so you can actually see it from a long-term view. Now, as a business, starting a podcast is one of the best things you can do, because these same 100 customers or 100 clients or 100 people that you want to connect with, you have their email addresses and you want to send them an email. Why it's so critical is that when you send an email to them, that email could end up in their spam, it could end up in their primary inbox, it could end up in their updates tab, in their promotions tab, it could end up somewhere. And you want it to end up in the right place. Now, I'll give you guys some free game today, because one thing I love about podcasting is I can say these things quickly and move on. There's a website called mailtester.com, mail-tester.com, right? There are others. I'm just giving you one. Check it out and test your email. You know, when we hear testing your email, you need to test your email. In other words, test and see whether you're hitting spam scores, if you're hitting compliant. Are you even compliant as well? Are you on Postmaster, Google? Are you on these platforms that are able you to get those low spam scores? Because even if you get 0%, it's going to give you a number from 0 up. So if you look at your score and you're able to see, this email is actually going to go well, then there's a reason why you're putting it there. For example, if I send you an email and that email is in font size 10, it's going to be hard for you to see that, 1. 2, it's also going to contribute to the weight of your email. Just think about it. If I wrote you a 4-page letter, when you hold that envelope, it's going to have a low weight on it, right? Compared to a 1-page letter. So consider the same thing when you're looking at the font size. I mean, look at Microsoft Word and you put in 10 words and then use font size 10 and then use font size 60. and then see how many pages you're going to get. It's the same difference. So if you focus on your size matters. If you focus on the size and you put it to a size that someone can't squint to see, and you also know your audience, because some audiences, like I was talking to a client earlier today in one of our sessions, and her audience is 45 up, 50 up. And when we send out emails, we're also very specific, because we can't send an email that is squint to see. It has to be legible. Like somebody can, if somebody's reading that email and they have to put on their glasses to see it, then that says a lot about the readability and also the consistency in delivery. It's not just about what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. So we said, okay, fine, we're going to make sure that it's about at least 16 pixels, right? Because if you look at it from that 16 point of view, then I said, okay, cool, we can do it at that point. And then from 16, somebody can easily say, okay, we can put it at that position. If I now put an image, and that image is 300 by 300 pixels, compared to 3,000 by 3,000 pixels, there's a difference. This is also a pro tip for you as a podcaster. Your image covers, your podcast covers, and your episode covers should be at least 3,000 by 3,000 pixels. That's a standard. If it's anywhere below that, then there's a problem there. And you can go to castfeedvalidator.com. Castfeedvalidator.com. These are websites that are free. You can check them out. This is freely given, freely give. So you can check these websites, check them out for yourself, do your own audits, and see what you get. If you're doing it, great job. If you're not, there's always room for improvement. There's always room for improvement. We're not perfect, only Christ is. So when you look at the long-term value of how you create your business from the ground up, then you're looking at your podcast as, I'll call it a point of perspective that puts you at a point of authority. Because when you speak up and you say something, people listen. If I said something and you listened to it and you actually did it, compared to you hearing the same information from somebody you do not know, you're going to have a different reaction to it, a different response to it. So that's also a big role to play in your consistency when you send out emails. Because when you send out an email, your email is where people are going to connect with you the most. When you send out an email and a week later, 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, you look at your analytics and people are still active in their inbox with your email, that's a big deal. I send about at least 2 emails, at the very least 2 emails a month. Sometimes it's even 1, but I'll do 2. But I'll never go above like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, unless it's segmented or something's happening. But when it comes to consistency, there are very few. And right now, I was actually looking at the numbers. It's about 363 emails. So I have 2 more emails to hit 365 emails. When I hit the 365th email, there's something I'm going to start doing, because I look at emails like an orbit, right? You keep sending emails. What happens in a year? If imagine I send you an email every day of the year. In a new year, there has to be a new cycle. There has to be a new form. There has to be a new formality. So we always keep evolving. And as a podcast, for you to grow, you have to create a place where people can find you. If you don't have a website, this is for you. If you don't have a website and you have a podcast, you need a website. At least start off with a website. Go to onpodium.com, onpodium.com, and start an account. It's about $180 a year. And that's where even my wedon'tplaypodcast.com is, by the way. And how I even got there is the founder of the company sent me an email on one blessed Sunday, and he's all the way in Lithuania. I'm in Texas. So he's all the way in Lithuania, a completely different country, found my podcast, sent me an email. This was, I think, about 3 years ago or so. And he was like, hey, I think you should check this out. What do you think about this? I was like, I'll give it a try. I'm always open to new ideas. So I'm always open to collaboration. And we got on a Zoom call, we talked, and I was like, yeah, I think I like this. I think we should work on this. And then boom, now it's great. It's happening. I mean, you can use podpage.com. There's so many websites you can use. This is not the only website. There are 1.1 billion websites. So I'm sure there's a ton you could choose from. But I look at it based on relationship build. I just don't pick a platform. I choose it based on relationships. So you could use it if you want to, but if you have a website, create a specific website for your podcast. If you have an existing website, use your existing website to create blogs for your existing podcast, and then embed your blog with YouTube videos off your podcast or Spotify or Listen Notes or whatever you use for listening on the web, and put it in. Because something that will interest you to know is that a lot of people listen to your podcast on a browser. I mean, it sounds like a no-brainer, or okay, yeah, that's true, but really, is it? Yeah, it is. Because if you look at browsers, especially, I did a research on this and I talked about it last week, 72% of web browsers use Google Chrome. So if people are using Google Chrome on their phones and they're using Google Chrome on their computers, on their tablets, right? And then you're also connected to google.com, which is essentially Google's product. So you're also connected to your Google Mail. So you have a history. Even if you log into YouTube, you're logging in with Google because YouTube is owned by Google. So when you really look at this technical setup, I mean, it's all in plain sight. So when we now create a podcast show and we start promoting our show and we want to podcast grow, then how people are going to know about your show is they're going to have to click on a link that's going to lead them back to your show from a certain place. So if I find your podcast on Apple, if somebody else finds your podcast on Castbox, somebody else finds your podcast on Podcast Addict, iHeartRadio, Pandora, Alexa, ChatGPT, they discover your podcast and they subscribe to it, guess where they're going to go next after they listen to your episode? Your website or your social media. So if you don't have either or, and if your social media is not connected to your website, it's a lose-lose. Because yeah, you can be posting content all day, but is it being seen by anyone? I was just talking to a client not too long ago, and she's a realtor, and we're building her website for her realty business. She's sold over 50 plus, 70 plus homes, and she's doing so well. And I was like, okay, what's your Instagram looking like? And I said, okay, we need to focus on this specific keywords, like put your phone number, your business number, that is, your business email, put the keywords. We literally did that within about 15, 30 minutes. And now she was nowhere to be seen from her username having an underscore in her initials, which is wrong. For me, I don't really believe in underscores unless you're writing or typing or coding. But if you're really writing for the internet, don't use underscores. If your profile name is an underscore, that's what you're literally putting yourself at a negative, because an underscore is under the line. I don't know if that even makes sense. Underscore, like even the word underscore is negative. I mean, it's not really, I don't know how to explain this in a better way to say it, but just don't do it. I think Francis says something, underscore is terrible. Yeah, it doesn't look clean. Yeah, don't explain. No need to, for real, because just don't, and if you use it, more power to you. But I look at this from a friendly search point. If you want to not use an underscore, mash it up. When you mash it up, the algorithm will understand it. If you put a hyphen, that's going to be a good thing because you do it on a web page. A URL is a pathway. Your Instagram username is not a pathway. It's a username. So if the username is not typable, let me just use that English. If it's not typable, then I have to literally go to my special characters and then go to the second page and then do an underscore. You've given someone at least 3 more seconds of their time they could have saved. So you're just saving people's time by doing that, honestly. So just be simple. And now she's showing up for realtors in the specific locations, and she's doing amazingly well. Now she's on the map. We built her website. Her website will go on Google, and everything that she's getting from all these HAR, from Zillow, from all these realtors, it will just point back to our website. And now she just surges locally. So I look at these things and I'm like, we don't know these things until we know them. But at the same time, I'm saying them so that it doesn't sound like it's far-fetched. So even your podcast, don't just call your podcast The Sun Podcast. If the podcast is talking about wellness and meditation and nutrition, put that in your podcast title. Put The Sun Nutrition or nutritional tips with your name, or put it in a way that's contextual to what people are going to find. Because no one's going to find the Sun Podcast. Who knows the Sun Podcast? But they know what they want. They want to feel better. They want to stand in the sun. What's the profit of, waking up in the morning and having some vitamin D? That's up to you. How are you going to put it out to people? How are they going to see that? What's the benefit of those things? So just replace the sun, replace what I'm saying with what your business is, and then ask yourself, can people find me? Can you find you? I really ask that question. Can you find you? So if you can't find you, then how will you do things in the way that you could? So it's really a matter of understanding where you want to grow. So these websites I've told you today are free of charge. Some of them you have to pay, but you have most of them that are free for use. And check it out. If you need more information, I send exclusive content. You can click the link above, put your first name and best email, and let me know which one out of the options you'd like to learn more about, and I can get you more information like that. And then once you put that information in, you'll get redirected to a booking calendar so we can actually talk, have a conversation offline so that we can actually have a great conversation and talk about your business. But right now, if you're listening to this and you need to know how to navigate the best way to have a best email practice for your business, especially for a podcast, is have a website, create a pop-up, create blogs, show up on social, and tag everything you're using semantically back to your website. If you do that consistently, 365 times the number of years that you want to do this, great. Podcasting is one thing that I thank God for every day, because I came from a musical background. I'm a self-taught drummer. I still play drums in my church. I'm still actively in music. I don't record as much music, but I'm going to get back into it. But I'm still actively in music, but I put a lot of energy into my podcast. So in 2019, I started my podcast and I stopped doing music for a little bit, and now it became a lot of it, because now I'm so focused on connecting people, just meeting people in different places. And the podcast is now being listened to in 155 countries. In the last 30 days, Brazil has been in the top location for podcasting listenership. And thank you if you're listening in Brazil. Thank you so much for listening, because I see this. I look at the data. I'm not just reading numbers. I'm reading intelligence. I'm scheming through these things. I'm mining through this data. So I understand where it's coming from and where it's going. And I also know Brazil is a great place for podcast discovery. In case you didn't know, now you know. So if you have a business and you want to run ads, don't run ads in the US, run ads in Brazil. Run ads somewhere where your audience is or could be, and then look at that market data and then scale back, reverse engineer, and build it for your system. If you look at all these franchises and all these big brands and businesses, when you look at restaurants, hotels, it started in one location and then it moved over. So it's really about how you want to move. And with that said, I hope this helped you and gave you some insight, because it's something that you got to do. And one thing I'll say for the last piece of this information piece here is that if you have a LinkedIn business account, especially a LinkedIn company profile, this is for you. You can connect your RSS feed in the settings section of your company settings on LinkedIn and put in your podcast RSS feed, and that can also feed into LinkedIn's server. So imagine doing that, and all your LinkedIn feeds are feeding from a podcast host that has all access to your links that you placed within the description of your podcast show. Semantically, you're just going to show up online for different things because you put yourself in position. Positioning equals to sales. So if you can do this, talk about your podcast, be out there, show out to the world, and let them know what you're talking about. Start conversations. It's great. Your best friend today, if you remember the first conversation you guys had, it started off with a conversation. So anyone that's going to read anything online, offline, is going to have a conversation with themselves or have a conversation with you. So at the end of the day, it has to make sense for both you and the person you're having a conversation with. So I hope this helped you and gave you some insights, but it's definitely something that has to take time, but it will grow. If you have a podcast, now is the time to use these platforms and scale up today. I'm about to start a new podcast with a new client, actually a consistent client, and we've been working for a long time now, and she's finally excited to start her own podcast. So I'm about to get that started, and I'm looking forward to more shows. We have over 25 podcast shows we've started this year. And I'm so grateful that everyone is doing well. So if you need something like this, reach out to me. Let's connect. Let's talk. And we can definitely make this happen. And click the link on my face too. You have access to all my links are here. All my links are here. So if you hit on my face, I'll definitely reach out to you on Clubhouse. And I'll be doing more rooms like this. So I appreciate you, Rosemary, Monica, Sana, Dr. Shari, Austin, Princess, Singer, Taliban, and as well as You're My People. Thank you for being here. Please follow the house at the very top, and let's get connected. Let's stay connected. I'll be here doing more rooms like this, and the replays are on too. So if you have any questions, reach out to me, and I look forward to speaking with you guys soon. So enjoy your day and enjoy the rest of your evening, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Now, that was an episode, right? Thank you so much for listening to the We Don't Play podcast show. I'm so glad that you're here and you are sticking tight with us, especially to the very end. Now, this is season 11, and we're going to do it differently. And I want to make sure that every episode you listen to has something to give back so that you can also learn more after you listen. Now, We Don't Play podcast show is where you listen, you live, you learn, and you earn. So if you're in any of those positions out of those 4, please make sure that you reach out to me. Send out an email through info@playinc.online. That's info@playinc.online. Or you could go to playinc.online, which is a website, www.playinc.online, playinc.online, and schedule a call so that we can get you on an SEO discovery call to talk about your business and help you with your marketing needs. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope this helped you. See you in the next episode. God bless you. Jesus loves you.